Hi friends, welcome back to Wine with Me. We are officially leaving the beautiful Italian wine regions, and we are moving on to another equally famous wine country full of its own legendary wine regions, and that country is France. And within France, we're going to start with the wine region of Bordeaux. Bordeaux is one of, if not the most prestigious wine regions in the entire world. But it's also very complicated, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, how about a little geography lesson? Bordeaux is in the southwest quadrant of France next to the Atlantic Ocean. It is split up into three main regions, which is the left bank, the right bank, and Entre deux Mers, which literally means in between two seas, or in this case, two rivers. And in between Bordeaux and the ocean is this forest. It's called the Landes Forest, and it's man-made. It used to be a swamp that they drained, and then they established pine tree plantations. Eventually, the vineyards benefited from this forest, from the cool breezes that were coming off the Atlantic Ocean. So let's get back to the wine. Bordeaux can be either a red or white, and it's almost always a blend. By French law, red Bordeaux has to be made of one or more of 6 approved grapes. And those grapes are Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, Carmenere, and Malbec. Here's where we get back into the complexity of the wine and the region. The wine themselves are very complex and they are age-worthy, which means that they can age for an extended period of time. It's also a complicated region because it can combat climate from year to year, such as spring frosts or heavy rains. But these Bordelais winemakers have insurance policies so they have wine from year to year. Finally, there's the prestige of Bordeaux. And that's with prestige also comes with some astronomical prices. It can get as high as $1,500 plus for a bottle of wine, where 99% of us will never experience. So to counter these wines, there are hundreds, if not thousands of different types of Bordeaux's that are a little bit more down to earth with their price. Those three main regions, there are smaller sub-regions. And within these small regions is where you'll see certain grapes excel. So Cabernet Sauvignon, for example, does really well on the left bank. And then in the smaller region of the left bank called Médoc is where Petit Verdot does very well. And in the right bank, you have your Merlots in regions such as Saint-Emilion, and then Cab Franc does very well there too. So remember how I said these Bordelais winemakers combat climate? Cabernet Sauvignon is considered a late budding grape, where Merlot is an early budding grape. So if they have any climate challenges throughout the year, such as a spring frost or an untimely rainfall, they can combat that climate with the grapes that they have. So if there's a spring frost and that damages their Merlot, they'll still have a good chance that their Cabernet Sauvignon does well that year. And then within the blend, they can make it to a certain style that is satisfactory to the winemakers, so they still have a wine for that year. So now let's get back to the wine itself. With all these different Bordeaux options, how do you know which one to choose? And to be honest, I don't know if I've ever had the same Bordeaux twice. So with that being said, a typical Médoc or left bank wine is said to be 70% Cabernet Sauvignon with 20% Merlot and 10% Cab Franc. And this is the wine that I have from the Médoc region. This one doesn't have a breakdown of the type of grapes that are in this wine, but it does say that it is structured and smooth. And what that tells me is that structured normally means that they're Cabernet Sauvignon grapes, because Cabernet Sauvignon will be more angular, structured with its tannins, whereas Merlot is more of that smooth aspect or plummy. May not be 50-50 Cabernet and Merlot, but they're going to be the majority of this wine. The typical recipe for Saint Emilion or Right Bank is 70% Merlot and 30% Cab Franc. This wine actually is from Côtes de Bordeaux, which is a region kind of on the outskirts of the Right Bank, but this one actually gives a breakdown of their grapes. So this one shows 75% Merlot and 25% Cab Franc. This wine is very smooth on the palate, which tells me that that's coming from the Merlot grapes. And then finally, let's talk about the white Bordeaux wines. There are 7 approved grapes that could be part of the blend of a white Bordeaux. The 3 main ones are Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, and Muscadel. The other 4 grapes are Uni Blanc, Colombard, Merlot Blanc, and Sauvignon Gris. The last 4 are, it's only going to make up a tiny part of the blend, and it's usually in their lesser expensive wines. And then this wine is part of Graves, which is the lower part of Left Bank. And this one does have a breakdown. So this one is 80% Sauvignon Blanc, 10% Muscadel, and 10% Semillon. So with this wine, Muscadel will give a floral note. And it is said that with the Semillon, if it ages, you'll get more of those honey notes and lanolin. This is not as aged, so you probably won't get that right this second because this is a 2022. But it's just some things to keep in mind if you see this type of breakdown. And then finally, there is another white wine within the Bordeaux region, and that's from Sauternes. I don't have an example of Sauternes. In my local wine shop, they only offered half bottles, and it's a little bit more expensive. The least expensive option was $24 for a half bottle. Sauternes is a sweeter wine. It's going to be deeper yellow, and I might do another little video about Sauternes because it's really cool and what they do. But for the purpose of this video, I just want to let you know there is another option out there. Thank you for watching Wine with me today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as they say in France, santé!